buying a house for yourself is actually a terrible investment. See, we were all lied to our entire life.
I bought a house when I was 26 and fell immediately into poverty.
I'm really starting to regret buying a house because I just got my mortgage statement through and we still owe £167,000 on our mortgage.
Hey, big dog, don't buy that house. Not if it's going to leave you so broke to the point that the only place you can afford to go is work.
We need to talk about how much of a scam buying a house is, especially if you live in a high income city. Because a couple years ago, my fiance and I bought a $1.3 million house. I was 26 years old. We split it 50-50. And now we kind of regret everything.
We've been told our whole lives that renting is throwing money away, owning is building wealth. That sounds great in theory, but here's the thing. No one tells you about the real costs that come with that shiny new house. I watched my aunt struggle to pay off debt after buying a house, y'all.
And before you're like, oh, $1 million? Like that's kind of a lot. I live in Bay Area. Okay, $1 million here will get you an entry-level home or a shack. I feel like we've just been fed this like American dream that owning a house means you're a successful adult, but it really doesn't mean anything. And there's so many ways to like rent and to build wealth nowadays that it's like it doesn't financially make sense to even own a house early. For starters, our house is now worth $900K. We lost $400K from our initial investment down payment of $200K. Versus if we just put that $200K somewhere like the S&P 500, we would be up to $300K right now. This was a $700K investment mistake.
So when you buy a house for yourself, it's not really even an investment. It's actually a liability. And this is because it doesn't generate income and you're the one that has to make the payment. It costs you money every single month. Mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, renovation. And even when you own the house outright, you still have to pay for all those expenses minus the mortgage payment. And which, by the way, all of those expenses go up every year as well. Your property taxes go up every year. Your insurance goes up every year. The maintenance, all the cost of materials go up every year. So the average house price in America is about $400,000, which means you would need about $80,000 to put down. Now you could technically put down less money, but then you would have a massive mortgage payment and you'd be paying like 95% interest. And that is a massive down payment that you sunk into your house and that money is gone forever. Now you might say, well, what if my house goes up to $500,000 and I sell it? Now I made $100,000 profit. Well, technically, yes, but now where are you going to live?
The dream of buying a house is starting to feel like a nightmare. A lot of people are in debt, like they're broke. Some are calling home ownership the biggest scam of our generation. And in this economy, you're not going to sleep well at night because with high interest rates, crazy property taxes, endless repairs, it's giving money pit, not investment. So many people are regretting it. Like, you're not just paying a mortgage, you're paying property taxes, insurance, HOA fees, maintenance, repairs, landscaping, and spoiler alert, those little extras add up to thousands every single year. I bought a house when I was 26 and fell immediately into poverty. Okay, when I lived with my parents, I was living my best luxury lifestyle. I went to South Korea, bought a 2,000 plane ticket, didn't even blink twice. I went shopping, luxury goods, all that. Was traveling, was just, I was living it up. I felt rich. I had no bills. And I had a full-time 9-to-5 job. I was working as a nurse, okay? I was killing it. I bought my own house. That first mortgage payment came in and I was like, oh, this is a situation. But at first you think you can handle it, right? Like, what's a couple thou? What's a couple thou? I got it. But then the pipes in my 80-year-old home broke immediately as soon as I bought the house. Wiped out my savings. Then another pipe in a different area of the house broke. Okay, I'm struggling. Okay, I need help. Then my neighbor's pipe, it was a twin house, her pipe broke. And she didn't believe that her pipe broke, but her pipe broke on my side of the house. So all of that water that was coming down was spraying into my home. And then my water heater broke. When I tell y'all, I went from living in the lap of luxury to destitute immediately. Now, don't get me to fooling y'all, because it was worth it in the long run because that house is now worth like 2 times what it was worth then. So I'm actually doing pretty good. But at the time, when I tell you I was struggling, I had to go to my parents every other day for dinner because your girl could not feed herself.
I'm really starting to regret buying a house because I just got my mortgage statement through and we still owe £167,000 on our mortgage. We're 37 and 38 years old. That is so depressing. But what's more depressing is that if I sold my house, I would have about 200 grand. But yeah, it's just sitting in my house. It's sitting doing nothing. Surely there's got to be better use for that money than just sitting there. I think we're all conditioned to think, aren't we? Buy a house, to have money to give to our children. But that's not usually the case now, because you've got to pay for your care. You know, if you live into your 80s, your kids are going to be in their 60s. Do they need the money? Probably not. They need it earlier. This is how my brain works. I get these times where I'm just like, what are we doing? Why have we done this? People take the mick out of, you know, people living in council houses and stuff, but I think they got it spot on. Absolutely spot on. If I could have got a council house, I would have got one. I would have snapped one up. Because not only have we got to pay all this money, probably not going to benefit from the money other than care when we're old, but we've got to upkeep our house. My husband's literally downstairs now sorting out our porch, decorating the porch. We've had to renovate this whole house because all we could afford was to buy a house that needed renovation. This is our second house that we're renovating. The amount of money that we put into this house so far give you nightmares. And my husband's a builder, so we can do it cheap. It's a money pit. It's a money pit. You think you're done, and then you have to start again.
And let's not forget property taxes. They never stop. Even if your mortgage is paid off, you're still paying the government every year just to live in a house you supposedly own. Moving costs, renovations, furniture, lawn care, pest control. The list is endless. You think you're done after the down payment, but nope. The house will keep taking your money like a toxic ex who just needs a little help every month.
Hey, big dog, don't buy that house. Not if it's going to leave you so broke to the point that the only place you can afford to go is work. I personally know somebody who bought a house that they qualified for on paper, but probably couldn't afford. And every single month is a struggle for them. I would not wish that upon anybody. This is why you have to know the difference between eligibility and affordability, because when you go to get pre-approved to buy a home, a lender is going to qualify you for the maximum amount that you can qualify for. You have to know that they are qualifying you based off of your pre-tax income, aka your gross income. And we're also only looking at your credit debts like credit cards, car payments, and student loans. We ain't looking at your utilities. We're not looking at your daycare. We're not looking at your gas and groceries and everything that you also have to pay for every month just to live. Yeah, your lender might have approved you for a $500,000 house, but before you go any further, you need to see what that payment on that $500,000 house look like, because it is better to rent than to be house poor. This is why I always tell people,
If you've been sitting on the fence between renting and buying a house, I'm going to put you onto something that only the most financially intelligent and wealthy people truly understand. It's going to go against everything that you have learned or been taught when it comes to finances. You need to think about every single purchase that you make as going into one of two buckets. It's either going to go into your assets or it's going to go into a liability. An asset is something that's going to make you money, and a liability is something that's going to cost you money. Where do you think purchasing a house falls? Now, if you are renting, there is no risk, there is no responsibility, there are no financial implications there other than your monthly rent. You do not have to pay land transfer tax, property taxes, maintenance, upkeep. If something massively goes wrong at your house, you are not responsible to financially replace or fix it. On the other hand, if you purchase a house, you are on the hook for every single one of those things. And I know that some of you will come after me and say long term, the equity that you build in your house will make you money. And you're not 100% wrong, but you're also not 100% right. There's nothing wrong with purchasing a house if you're doing it properly. I'm 35 years old. I've rented my entire life. However, I do own a home, I do own a cottage, and I do own a condo. And all of these properties are making me money. Now, if I did decide I don't want to rent anymore and I want to go and buy a house, I'm going to utilize my assets to pay for my liability, which would be my home for me to live in. The best decision that you could make financially ever is to purchase that house, but rent out a portion of it. Have them pay your mortgage. Or even better fucking yet, buy a duplex or a triplex and rent those out, and you live there completely rent free. These are the types of decisions that you should be taking in your life to set yourself up financially for your future.
Hear me out. Renting gets a bad rep, but in this economy, it can actually make more sense. You know your fixed monthly payment. You're not responsible for repairs. You have the flexibility to move when you want. And in some markets, rent is actually cheaper than a mortgage plus all those hidden costs. Plus, if the economy crashes or you lose your job, you're not stuck with an asset you can't sell. But when you're renting, when the water heater breaks, call the landlord. But when you own, You are the landlord, and your savings account is now your repair fund.
And everybody doesn't want to be a homeowner, and everybody won't be a homeowner. Let's talk about it. They said 68% of adults go and buy a home because they were encouraged to, not because they understood why or why not to. Of that 68% of adults who go and rush and buy a home just because that's what society tells us to do, 32% regret buying that home within the first 5 years of living in that home. See, because I fear that that idea has a lot more to do with the idea of playing home than it does on the actual value of owning your own home. I'm sorry, owning your own loan. Which is why we have a lot of young adults unmarried, playing house, but in an apartment. Okay, that wasn't part of my script, but... Stop making people feel bad for not rushing into buying a home because they haven't decided where they want to settle down, and they're not even sure that they want to wake up one day and realize that they are house poor. Because of the reality of what it means to quote unquote own your own home in 2025. Don't catch up, catch on. And that's how you'll have a better financial life in the future.
Y'all, I'm not saying never buy a house, but in 2025, you need to really think it through. Run the numbers, factor in repairs, taxes, insurance, everything. And remember, owning a home doesn't automatically make you financially secure. Sometimes renting is the smarter move until the market and your bank account says otherwise. Because the dream is cute, but being broke in a dream home is not. Have you ever regretted buying a home? Let's get real about this, because the more we share, the more people can make smarter decisions. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.